Unfortunately, with Kashmir, what happens is everybody is allowed to have an opinion on Kashmir, about Kashmir, except for a Kashmiri. And that was very problematic to me. That was something that I was not comfortable with at all. That thought process is something I wanted to change. And I realized that it's very important to take control of our narrative. We can keep talking about other people not letting us speak, but what are we doing to create avenues where we are speaking ourselves? Right. There's a certain ease to how everything happens in Bangalore. I mean, it's a very interesting place to be in. It's the best of both worlds. And you can choose to be which world you want to be a part of. Unlike in a city like Mumbai, where if you don't hustle, you will get run over. Bangalore's not that city. Okay. Bangalore's not that place. It's in between. It's not extremely laid back, but you're not going to get run over if you don't start running the race. You can walk, you can trot.
The point of doing this podcast is to just humanize the process of entrepreneurship. Like, what is it to become financially independent? What is it to create a company, to create a brand, to start a team, to raise funding? What all of these things. Just the purpose is to humanize this process for every young individual watching this. Right. So, even if when they are listening to Azmat or when they are listening to Musavir, if this thought comes in their mind, like, ये तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. So our purpose is fulfilled right there and then. So, as I told you earlier that I had planned that when I visit Bangalore this winter, I'll get in touch with you then, and then we'll be doing this podcast. But coincidentally, I was just scrolling through Instagram and I checked that you are in Srinagar these days. So you were doing, I think, that 4 a.m. dull ride.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to tell me about that. What was that 4 a.m. dull ride?
So we have a very interesting feature in Kashmir, which is called the floating vegetable market. Right. Unfortunately, most Kashmiris have not visited the floating vegetable market themselves, but a lot of tourists do, and it's one of those attractions that is written about in magazines and spoken about in travel shows. So it was one of those experiences that I'd not had, and I wanted to check that out. So I left at 4 a.m, as you know, and went into the interiors of the Dal. There is a place called Tinda Mohalla, which is where the floating vegetable market is set up. Okay. And people bring their produce on shikaras and sell it to each other. Earlier, they used to barter, but now that's not how it works. Now they, of course, need to buy it. And then they take it from there on to shops and other places. This is primarily vegetables that are grown in the Dal itself. Okay. And those are what are sold over there. My experience this time around was a little underwhelming. I felt that it's a little bit of an overrated experience because probably because I visited in autumn and the produce was not so much.
Probably because you went out at 4 a.m. and it's freezing cold.
Not that. I mean, that's when you're supposed to go. You're supposed to leave very early. The market starts at the break of dawn, immediately after the Fajr namaz. Okay. And it goes on for about an hour from there. And then everybody heads in their own direction. But I think the best time to go would probably be in spring when there's a lot more produce. So there were more tourists than there were vendors there. So I think I was a little disappointed with that. But then, nonetheless, it was a beautiful experience.
Wow. So let's get to the about the brand that you have created, the business that you have set up in the startup city of India. So tell us a bit about that. What got you to start a brand like Sarposh Foods?
So, Sarposh is, I think, a culmination of a lot of passion and love for Kashmir. I am somebody who wears Kashmir on her sleeve, and I've been out of Kashmir for almost 10 years. I mean, I had that realization while having that conversation with you earlier, and I was like, wow, it's been 10 years. And that's a long time. But I have always been somebody who's been very attached to our culture. And I think moving out made me realize what we have is amazing and brilliant and needs people to talk about it a lot more. Unfortunately, with Kashmir, what happens is everybody is allowed to have an opinion on Kashmir, about Kashmir, except for a Kashmiri. And that was very problematic to me. That was something that I was not comfortable with at all. That thought process is something I wanted to change. And I realized that it's very important to take control of our narrative. We can keep talking about other people not letting us speak, but what are we doing to create avenues where we are speaking ourselves?
Right.
I think that thought and idea is what led to the birth of Sarposh. But the journey was not as linear as it sounds. This is not something that I had planned. This is not something that I thought of or decided or, like most startups are born, you kind of have a business plan and then you sit down and put 2 and 2 together and say this works, this doesn't. Sarposh was by chance. There was really no business plan that I drew up when I was doing this. I'm married into a non-Kashmiri family, which is ironic, especially considering the fact that I'm someone who loves Kashmir to death.
They're from Bangalore or?
They're actually from Lucknow, but they've stayed in Bangalore all their lives. So they're like a little bit of a mix, but they're not Kashmiris. And moving to college was not as much of a culture shock for me, or, there was no permanence of that move because I knew I would come back home eventually. I think it's
Tell me more about that, like when you moved out for college and what was it about?
So I moved to college. I moved to Jalandhar for my college for my engineering, and it was a very nice, interesting experience because I got to learn a lot. I participated in a lot of activities that were happening in my college. I was always this person in school, so it was a very natural progression for me to do that in college. It's just that moving outside of Kashmir and going to a college outside Kashmir gave me access to more opportunities than I would have had in Kashmir. And that helped me look at things with a clearer perspective. I did come back in between to Kashmir briefly for a couple years. But then I immediately moved back to Bangalore. I think I was in Kashmir for about 2 years in between. And then I moved to Bangalore after I got married. And once I was there, I think the permanence of that move set in. I realized that this is permanent. I probably have no way of going back. And this is what home is now. And I wasn't ready to accept that, to be honest, because home for me is and always is going to be.
Going to be my question. Like,
yeah.
Is the definition of home change?
Not at all. Not at all. I think home is really where your heart is, and my heart and my soul lies in Kashmir. It's wandering the valleys all the time. So there's no way that any other place can become home. So I think that permanence of the fact that I moved and there was no way for me to kind of stay connected with home anymore. Was hurtful, if I can put it, very mildly. And I really wanted to be able to do something to ensure that I was closer and connected.
Okay.
I was working at an MNC at that point of time, and I remember wanting to do a small potluck at home and just be around people who know how to speak Kashmiri. You know that feeling when you go out. Yeah, when you go out. And I still get that feeling when I come back and I'm on my flight back home as soon as I land at Srinagar airport and everybody's talking, hey, hu karta, hi karta. That just hearing that the language that you have grown up around, I think that's a feeling that most people living out of home would understand. So I just wanted to be around people who understood what a yakhni was and understood subtle references of hai pe itrat. So I just wanted to be around people like that. And I thought we have a couple of friends, we'll pool up at home and we'll just have a little bit of a gathering. I created a WhatsApp group and I put my phone aside. I had an hour-long meeting or some sort of work that I was busy with, and when I finally checked my phone, there were 200 participants on the group, and I realized it was definitely not something that I could do at home. My home could at max accommodate maybe 30 people. I couldn't have gone beyond that. So I started looking for restaurants and spaces which were Kashmiri in Bangalore, where I could probably, because Bangalore has a large Kashmiri population, Pandits as well as Muslims, a lot of students. So I was expecting something to be available in a city like that. And there were a few places, and I went to kind of visit those places and see what can be done here. I was horrified at what was being sold in the name of Kashmiri food. I mean, that rista was nothing like a rista should be or could be or would be. It was a oily red mirchi ki gravy with a kofta in it. It was really bad. It was.
You are triggering all my negative. Right now, I'm thinking that why is she doing this?
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened to me, and I think I needed that trigger to understand that this is not going to work. I went to a lot of places that claimed to serve Kashmiri food, which did not claim to be Kashmiri restaurants, but claimed to serve Kashmiri food. And they had all sorts of things in the name of Kashmiri food. Like a Rogan Josh could be anything, any mutton gravy with cream in it, and tomatoes and onions in it would be a Rogan Josh. A Kashmiri pulao, for that matter, was like, it had pineapples and cherries in it. And it was this white colored, very sweet, sugary pulao with. And I was like, that's not us. And Vazwan or Kashmiri food, for that matter, is one of those elements that people know and understand, right? I mean, it's you ask anybody about Kashmir, they know 2-3 things. They know Gulmarg, they know Pahalgam, they know Dal Lake, and they know Vazwan.
Right.
And you don't even know that, actually. Like, you don't even know that, right? So I realized that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that space. I didn't know if I was equipped to do that, but I wanted to give it a shot. With the potluck that was supposed to happen for about 10 people, we ended up with a gathering for 1,000 people. 2 bands, a comedian, a poet, an artist, a singer, multiple people in attendance. And this was this grand gala event called Kosher Saal, which happened. I literally started planning it on the 14th of November 2018. Okay. It happened on the 30th of December 2018.
Wow.
And, just a day ago, like it was 4 years to when I started conceiving something like this. And it was a massive success. And that's when I flew in chefs who had cooked for my own wedding, because I was like, if I'm doing this, food has to be a very important part. And I truly believe that food is one of those things that very deeply roots you and connects you to culture. So that was one of those things that I really wanted to incorporate. And I flew in chefs who had cooked for my own wedding. They flew in not just themselves, but with, the entire gamut of things that you need, with degs and dikchas and chonchas and goshpors and kain and maas patra. And then, of course, ingredients, haak, pran, nadur, everything, basically. Wow. Everything. We had a few hiccups in between with my husband meeting an accident about 20 days before the event and getting hospitalized. He ended up getting a surgery about 3 days before the event for his spine, that too. It was quite a bad time, but I wanted to make sure that this happens. And it was a massive, massive success. So that was something that I was very happy about. And I was really glad that we were able to do it. We took a little bit of a backseat on things because my husband had to kind of recover and get back to being able to do things himself. And it took us about a month. But after that, we started introducing real Kashmiri food to the city, because whatever they'd had before that was a shame, honestly, in the name of Kashmiri food. I was still working at that time, and I would work 5 days a week. Over the weekends, we would set up these stalls and pop-ups across the city. And we started understanding how the city is going to perceive something like this. And when I was sure that they're going to enjoy it, and this is something that really just needs the right representation and nothing else, that's when I took the plunge and moved into the restaurant format. It's now been, we took the restaurant in 2020, so it's now been 2+ years since the restaurants existed, 4 years since the brand has existed. and touch wood, going strong.
Wow, that's fantastic. As I said, you have triggered some of my very good. Like, I don't want to remember those times.
Yeah.
So there was this time in 2019 when I first moved outside of my home.
Yeah.
I was all alone. So internet had been bad. Like, the 370 episode had happened, and the people from all across the country were coming back to Kashmir. So I'm in Kashmir. There's no landline here. I cannot speak to my parents. I cannot speak to my friends. All I want is, please, can someone just say around me like a Petra? I'm like,
Yeah.
please, is there someone who can just speak to me in Kashmiri? So I remember I was living in a PG at that time there in Delhi, and the PG owner once called me and said, meet this guy. So I saw it was a very like a fair looking guy, and just when I saw him, I just wanted to hug him. Oh my God, is it really you? But then he said he's from Afghanistan.
Oh.
I was like, why the hell did you call me then? What do I have to do with him? I just wanted someone who can speak with me Kashmiri. So that was the first memory. The second memory, the Vazwan that is being served outside of Kashmir.
Yeah.
That is terrible. So for one straight month, I was hosting my friends, my new friends in Delhi. I was telling them, okay, I'll show you how our food tastes. I'll show you everything. So I kept bragging about it.
Yeah.
So finally, when it came time, we went to it's a very expensive place. I won't name it. Like, very elite sort of people go there. And I told them, okay, I'll take you there and I'll show you what sort of food we eat.
Yeah.
And when I saw, there was rajma on the plate. There was rajma, and we had ordered a vazwan.
Yeah.
As you said, the goshtaba is nothing like
Yeah.
goshtaba. There is just some orange gravy, and they are calling it rogan
Yeah.
josh. And I was like, no, this can't be it. And
Yeah.
they are charging, I don't know, around 2,000 rupees for this thing, what they have served us. So I clearly remember that. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. One more thing. You said that your husband is from Lucknow, basically.
Yeah.
So has that something to do with Khanposh Foods?
Yes, absolutely. Everything to do with Khanposh Foods. So,
Okay.
Sarposh, of course, was born because of my love for Kashmir and my need to have a space which was Kashmiri in its representation. I think Khanposh was born out of a need of understanding what the food space required from the food of that region. I think once we got into the space of food, it didn't remain all about emotions. It also became a lot more about what we can add in terms of value to the food ecosystem that we are in. Because I realized with the introduction of Sarposh, we were able to tell people that this is what real Kashmiri food is about. We were able to go through an entire process behind it and take people with us on that process, right from the sourcing of certain ingredients that you require for it, all of that. And it was also a very conscious understanding of the dynamics of genders in kitchens, right? When you talk about women in the kitchen, you're talking about women cooks, and you're talking about women cooking at home, or doing her duty in terms of her family. And suddenly when you're talking about men in similar spaces, you're talking about men chefs, and you're talking about people who are cooking in bulk, and you're looking at these people who are cooking on the streets and basically monetizing the skill of cooking. When you're monetizing the skill of cooking, it's all about the men. And when you're talking about cooking as free labor, then it's all about the women. So I think we realized all of these things when we got into the space, especially with when we started Sarposh, and I started getting into a zone which is completely male dominated. Vazwan. Who does, like, have you seen any women in the Vazwan space at all? Even when there is a function at home, the women will do the pran cleaning and the haq cleaning, and that's about it, and make kahwa at max. But it's the men who will take care of vazas kya chubakar, what do you have to get, how much, maas kya chanun, maas kya churatun. And I literally got into the thick of things. I've gone through the process of sourcing the meat as well. So, I've done it all, been there, done that. And a lot of the vendors were also surprised in terms of, oh, why is this lady looking at, what kind of lamb she needs. So, when I got into that space, I realized that there's a similar space for Awadhi food as well. My husband being from Lucknow, meant that at home, the food that we would eat, my mother-in-law, the food that she would cook, was food that was from the homes of Lucknow. And that was not food that was served in the name of Awadhi, Mughlai or North Indian food.
What does Awadhi mean?
So Awadh is the region of Awadh is that specific region that came under the Nawabs of Awadh, basically. So it's very different from the Mughalai region because this was a much later stage, and this is somewhere we're talking about history in terms of what was happening during British India. That entire region of present day Uttar Pradesh was the region of Awadh, and they had a very distinct food culture. A lot of it is traced back to the things that Nawab Wajid Ali Shah did in his times, which is how, things like Galauti kebabs came in place. There's a legend that says that he did not have teeth and could not chew but wanted meat. So his Khansamas put papita, raw papaya in the meat and made it really soft and mushy. So Galautis were born. But, when you talk about that food, there's so much more to it than what is being sold on the streets. Lucknow food is not as much about the meat as Kashmiri food is. Yes, on the streets it is, but in regular homes, that's not what people eat. You can't say the same for Kashmir. In Kashmir, even regular homes, the most economically weak also would at least eat meat, say once in a week or a month or whatever. Once a week. Because Kashmiris can't do without their protein. But that's not the case in that region. And that region is so much more about vegetarian food and being able to create things out of vegetarian food that resemble in taste in terms of non-vegetarian food, which is also, a fad that is now building using a lot of soya for this whole concept of vegan meat and plant-based meat.
I buy that.
Yeah, so the vegan meat and plant-based meat. All of that, I think these have existed for a very long time. And that region, people in that region have been using things like that, not out of choice, but out of economic constraints.
Right.
So that was one of those things that we really wanted to kind of have an understanding of sorts of. And of course, I wanted to have a woman on board for something like that as well. So I have a team member who helms the operations of that place. Her name is Tayeba, and she basically takes care of all of that. And she's able to bring out recipes from the homes and streets of Awadh. So Khanposh is a culmination of all of that.
But it intrigues me that you did not mention that example. Lauki ke chilke ka.
Oh, yes.
You have to mention that.
So the Lauki ke chilke ka kebab is a very interesting dish that is made in the homes of Lucknow, where you actually are able to see the economic shrewdity of a house running a a homemaker woman. Lauki is a very cheap vegetable in the region, and it's a thing where you want to be able to use all aspects of a vegetable. So the chilka of the lauki is peeled off. The lauki is turned into, say, a halwa or even a sabzi. But the chilka is peeled off and cooked in a very interesting manner with some chana dal and all of that, and made into a shami kebab. And the taste is amazing, and you won't be able to tell whether this is whether this is a Galauti kebab or a Lauki ke chilke kebab. So that's the interesting thing that women in that region are able to achieve, and it's not something that's spoken about so much. It's not one of those things that you'll find on popular restaurant menus. You'll find a mushroom Galauti. You'll find fancy stuff, but nobody wants to talk about these small hacks that women have up their sleeves to get their children to eat more nutrients and enjoy the food as well.
This is actually the first time that I heard about it.
Yeah.
As I told you earlier, that I still cannot, it's stuck in my imagination. I can't stop thinking about it.
It's a very interesting dish, and you must come down and try it out.
I'll definitely do that. So, do you have a co-founder in your brand, or like, are you business partners?
Yes, my husband is my co-founder. And he basically handles the financial aspects of things, and I handle the operations.
So you started this brand together?
Yes, we started this together.
Hashtag couple goals.
Yeah, we started together.
Firstly, the Sarposh Foods and then the Khanposh.
Yes.
Was this the plan all along that first it will be something from your hometown, then it will be something from his hometown?
So, honestly, as I said, none of this was planned. We did not plan Sarposh in the format that it is, or for that matter, in any format. It just so happened. But I think my husband always had a dream that he wanted to get into the food space. And I don't think he'd envisioned or thought about getting into a Kashmiri food space. Avadi, he would have probably thought about, because, that was something that was on his mind. But Kashmiri just so happened. And there was no such planning in terms of, this has to happen first and that has to happen later or whatever. But immediately after we started Sarposh, we did start a delivery-only model for Khanposh. Okay. And that was operational parallelly because we had the capacity to kind of do that, and we would do a one-off order every once in a while. So it was a very natural progression for Khanposh to get a space of its own and an identity of its own, which was outside of Sarposh. But it's still in a very nascent stage, and it's still, just about a couple months old, and it's going to take some time before it gets to a point where we can talk about it in more detail in terms of what can happen and what's the plan with all of that. But I think Sarposh now has a space of its own, which is not something we'd expected. I think the success of Sarposh is what prompted us to take the Khanposh route as well.
So it has been profitable.
Oh yeah, we reached the profitability point very fast. The restaurant standard is generally about 2 years. It took us less than 4 months.
Considering that there was a 2-year lockdown.
So the lockdown period, we were not operational at all. Okay. We took the space in January. Mm-hmm. The space was ready by March. Mm-hmm. But immediately when we were supposed to announce the launch, the lockdown happened. And we were not able to operate till September. Off and on in between for a couple orders here and there, but nothing substantial. We properly only opened in September 2020, and we reached the profitability point in, very, very fast.
Wow. You are saying in around 4 months.
Yeah.
That is great. So, and what about the team building? So, how much time did it take to build a staff for the Sarposh?
I think it's a constant effort. You can't look at any day and kind of say that yes, I've built a team and I'm done with that aspect of doing things. That never really happens.
There's that top line of leader.
Yes. So interestingly, because of the kind of operations that we have, interestingly because of the kind of business that we are in, it's not so much about top line management. We started off as my husband and I kind of being the jack of all trades and master of all. Because we come with very diverse skill sets. He understands the procurement, finances and business, legal aspect of things really, really well, because he's also a businessman who's been in the business for quite a bit. And I'm the creative brain of the business. So quite literally, he's the left brain and I'm the right brain of the business, and we run it like that, with each of us having our own spaces to operate within. So I think that was the initial top line of management, and we did not really need anybody at that point of time in the initial stages of the business, which was also, I think, a very smart decision, because we were able to retain control of how to build the brand to the best of our ability in the initial stages when it was extremely important. It has its pros and cons. Of course, maybe having an external would put more pressure in terms of if we've done something in, say, X number of months, we would have probably done that a lot faster because there was an external pressure or whatever. But I think it was also good in a certain way, because we were able to complement each other's skill sets really well. And that's exactly what you're looking for in co-founders. You're looking for somebody with complementing skill sets. So that we were quite lucky with. But the most important thing for us was the in-house production team. For something like this, the production team is the most important. And I think we've been very lucky, because the team that came for the event stayed along, and they're, touch wood, still with us 4 years down the line. So we've been able to retain that. of course, there have been additions and subtractions and then additions. All of that is a part of the business and that keeps happening. So team building is a constant exercise, but we've been majorly able to retain most of our staff from the initial days.
So I think the fact that you didn't have it planned, or as you're saying that it wasn't planned, so I think that makes it more commendable, even more commendable, since you were already having a job in MNC. I'm assuming that it has to be a well-paying job because you have already completed it. Then leaving that, so did you leave the job at once, or were you doing it side by side and then?
For about a year, I was doing this as well as was working, because we were still in the pop-up format. The moment I decided that we need to go into the restaurant space and have a space of our own is when I decided to quit, because I knew that this was not something that I could juggle with, a full-time job. So I actually quit my job in 2019. Sometime around early June 2019, we had finalized things for the restaurant and everything. And then I had to travel for my brother's wedding. So I took a little bit of a break, about a 2-month break. And I remember coming to Kashmir in August to finalize everything. We'd already taken the space. We'd paid the advance for the space. We'd finalized everything. And I came here to finalize the things that I needed to take from here, and I paid up advances for that. And I had to go back to Bangalore and start working on the space. I had to start working on the interiors.
Okay.
But I left Kashmir on the 5th of August 2019. And you know what happened post that. My team had also come down, because a few days after that was Eid. And since I'd taken a break, they wanted to spend time with their family on Eid. And then I completely lost contact with everybody. With the team, with all the people that I had paid advances to. We lost all the money in that process. We just barely managed to get the advance back and just give that space off. And that's when I decided that I'm not going to get back into this space at all. I wanted to move out. I thought that I'll just, maybe apply for a master's or something and leave India and probably go to the UK. I was actually in the middle of my applications, but we were looking for a space for one, a small certain something. And the same broker who had shown us the earlier place, she knew we were looking for a place at that time. So she called me up and said, I'll show you a place and you won't be able to say no. Okay. I had no idea what she was showing me, and I didn't have the restaurant in my mind at all. And this was probably around November or late November, early December 2019. I remember walking into the space where we currently have Sarposh. I remember just looking at it, and of course it was in ruins. That nobody had been in that space for the last 3-4 years. The last owner had done all sorts of modifications to the space and everything. But I saw the space and I said, I love it and I want it. Okay. So I went back, I spoke to my husband, and we had somebody who was very keen on investing in the business at that point of time, which will kind of bring us to the point of talking about investments. Mm-hmm. So there was somebody who was keen on investing in the business at that point of time, because he'd seen what we were able to achieve in that very short period of while we were doing pop-ups. Right. And he knew we were keen on getting the restaurant in place. So that person, we reached out to him and conversations started, and it was almost finalized, and we were supposed to go ahead and pay the advance to the owner of the building. Mm-hmm. And right about that time, 2-3 days before that, CA and RC had also happened around the same time. Right. And that person was not based in India. He was based outside. He was a local but based outside. And he said, there are things in India are very volatile. I don't think I want to invest there. Maybe we'll look at something else some other time. Mm-hmm. So he backed off at the last moment. And we'd not planned. And as I said, this was a business that was born completely unplanned. Mm-hmm. So we had not planned for starting the restaurant on our own. But when he pulled out, my husband said that it's okay. Even if he pulls out, I think we can pull this off together. I felt that we won't be able to, looking at what the estimates were and what our savings were like. I didn't think that was possible. But he said, we're going to do it. And he went ahead and just paid the advance and came back and said, I've done that. So then it was, I put everything aside and I said, okay, I'm going to concentrate on trying to get this on its feet. We put in all of our savings, all of our money into getting the place up and about. And we just barely managed to finish it when, as per our calculation, if we would have started operating in March, things would have been much, much smoother. But we were not able to start in March. And COVID hit, and then it was a continuous lockdown. The place was ready, spick and span, and not one person had entered the space till then. And we put in all of our savings, all of our money into getting the place done. So it was a very hard time. Business overall was down, even for my husband. And things were... He's into design and construction of warehouses. So steel systems. So even for him, things were not going great, and it was very complicated, and we decided that we would just shut it down, and we're not going to go ahead and do anything anymore. But I remember coming home as soon as flights opened up. I came home, I'd got COVID and I'd gotten better, and then I came and spoke to my parents and I said, I don't think we can do this anymore. I think we're going to have to, put an end to this. This is the stop loss scenario that we have. And they pitched in. They said, if it's only about the money, if you need a couple months more to kind of just support yourselves, we'll help you. But please don't quit. Just give it till December. Let's see how it goes. So on the 2nd of September, I went back to Bangalore. I opened the doors to our restaurant and I said, I'll see if somebody walks in. Till 31st of December, well and good. And if I see it not working out, I'm just going to shut these doors and not care about it anymore. Touchwood, not had to look back ever since. And before December, we'd already hit break even. So, there was no looking back.
Like as they say, कि सबसे ज़्यादा अंधेरा तभी होता है, it's just right before the dawn.
Right before dawn.
So if you are just the moment when you are about to give up, hang on a little bit more. Just a couple of moments where you have to stay in there, and that makes all the difference.
That said, I would also, businesses are not about emotions.
Right.
Business is about being practical. You need to know what your limitations are. You need to know, when you're running a business like this, you need to understand that there are rentals, there are salaries, these are your fixed costs, these are your variable costs, these are what your, costs look like. And how deep in your pocket can you dig?
Right.
You can't go bankrupt trying to run a business. That's not how it works. You need to know when you have to stop. If my parents would not have pitched in at that point of time, even though it would have been very hard for me emotionally, I would have taken that decision to stop putting in any more money, and I would have shut the place, because that I had done the maximum to my capacity at that point of time. And it would not make sense for me to stretch myself any further. And it took us a very long time to recover from that.
Right.
And yes, we hit break even very quickly because we were doing things right. We knew what we wanted to do. We knew how we wanted to do it. The market was ready for us. All we needed was the market to basically open up. And when that happened, things picked up on their own. But it's very important to know when to stop also. You can't keep chasing behind something that's not working.
So as I was saying, I recently was listening to this thing on YouTube. I don't remember who was saying this, but it was a very beautiful insight. They said that when a business is successful, we say that it was there at the right place at the right time. So it does not just happen to be there at the right place at the right time. They have been knocking at that door from from how much time they have been just there banging that door. And just someday that door finally opens and people say, oh, they're just at the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. That's what they say, right? Every overnight success has been years in the making.
Exactly.
You don't see the years behind it. You just see the overnight success. Even, I remember when I started Sarposh, I got calls from people who had run Kashmiri restaurants outside of Kashmir before, and they called me and said, it's not going to work, don't do it. And for a moment, I believed them. But I knew what I was bringing to the table. I knew what I was doing right. And I knew how to do it. And I think that was the most important thing that ensured that Sarposh could become what it became. And of course, a lot of people have come after that and are following in that path. And honestly, I don't feel bad about it at all. The only thing that I would want for all of those places and people to do is be honest with the food and the culture. Don't try making money out of this.
Right.
Like if that's your end goal, if your end goal is to make X amount of money out of this, you're not going to care about anything else. You'll do anything to just make that quick buck. Don't do that. You be true to what the food is supposed to be about. Money will follow, basically.
Authenticity is the key.
Yes.
Yes, I completely agree with you on that. So, I have 2 more questions for you. So, firstly, I have to ask about like your own personal relationship with money. So, since you have been financially independent, I think from a very young age,
Yeah.
you have moved out from Kashmir at a very young age, and after that, you have secured a job as well, and after that, business. So, I wanted to know, how are you personally when it comes to money? Like, how has financial independence shaped your life? Because it's clear, like we can clearly see how much of freedom, how much of like you radiate that sort of freedom. Like when I'm speaking to you, I know that I'm speaking to someone who is just like they can make a decision like that. So
I think financial independence is a very trick kind of a question.
okay.
There are a lot of factors that determine your financial independence. Not just the fact that you're in a secure, stable job or, have a running business that ends up making X amount for you or all of that, but also responsibilities that you have, right? Do you have family to take care of? Do you have brothers, sisters, parents? Do you have dependents to take care of? All of that kind of factors into financial independence. Yes, you may be making X amount of money, but how much of that X is already pledged for something, right? Because whatever's left after that is what basically gives you independence to make spontaneous decisions. Till then, there are no spontaneous decisions. If you've got to pay rent, if you've got to pay an EMI, if you have dependents to take care of, and if you have medical bills to pay, it doesn't matter how much you're earning. That money is pledged already. You've already spent that money technically. Whatever is left after that is what allows you to make independent decisions. I think with me, the interesting thing was the fact that I did not have any dependents or anything to look after or take care of. A lot of people, when they move out of Kashmir or wherever they're from, and move to a different city for the first time, they have to pay for their PGs or rents, or if they buy a flat, which happens much later, then EMIs, or if they have a car loan or whatever. Luckily, I got married and I didn't have to take care of any of that. So I had no expenses. My parents are financially independent. They're not dependent on me, so I don't have to take care of any of that. So I think the fact that I come from a position of privilege is what allowed me to have a certain amount of financial independence and take calls and decisions that I had to take. Right. That said, was it enough to start a business like this? Not at all. Okay. Not at all. I mean, despite the fact that I was earning very well, most of my money was getting saved because I had no expenses. At max, I would go out and spend money on, say, food or clothes or something that I would want to buy for myself or splurge on myself. Even then, there was a lot of money in my, spontaneous decision-making account. And even that was not enough to start something like this. I had to take help from my husband. He had to pitch in. And, a majority of the initial amount that went into the business came from him. And I mean, of course, he's been in the business much longer. and has been independent financially for way longer than I have. He started working at the age of 13. So, he has an entire different journey and all of that. That money had to come from him. And then, when tough times came in, even my parents had to pitch in. So, that said, starting a business is not a spontaneous decision. Starting a business is not. Yes, Sarposh started on a whim. Yes, Sarposh started, without a lot of planning. But that planning was not on paper, but a lot of it was already in my husband's head. Mm-hmm. So he is that kind of a person who can look at something and see whether this is a viable business or not, whether this is a business that's going to work or not, how much money is going to go into it. And he has his calculations because he's done this over a very long period of time. Had I done this independently, maybe I would not have been able to do it very successfully. Mm-hmm. But now my understanding of these things is a lot better. And now when, I have to make a decision in terms of starting another place or doing something else or investing elsewhere, my decision-making process is a lot more different. That said, neither of us, my husband or I, had any prior experience in the food space. So the scenario there was very different, and we learned a lot of things on the job. We learned a lot of things with Sarposh. We made a lot of mistakes in Sarposh, which we did not make in Khanposh, but we made other mistakes in Khanposh. So that is, I think, a learning curve that's going to continue, and that's how things are going to be. But I think financial independence per se is a very complicated but very interesting thing. And is it enough for you to start making spontaneous decisions? I think it depends from person to person and reality to reality.
Being finally starting having your own money at a very young age when you do not have much responsibility, you do not have a family to take care of, your parents are already financially independent. At that age, don't you think that sort of gives you more leverage if you have your own money at a very young age?
Leverage for what? Like leverage to do what? I think in today's day and age, parents understand and support their children's passions as well. So, if you shouldn't be shy of asking for a loan or financial help if you need to, in case you have an idea. I think it's not about leverage. I think it is very important to be financially independent, whether it be through a job, whether it be through a business, whether it be through investments, whether it be through any sort of thing. Yes, it is extremely, extremely important to have your financial independence, but not for leverage, but for your own self, for your own planning, for your own growth. That said, I don't think it's a reality in today's day and age to have so much financial independence at a very young age that you can start businesses all by yourselves without help. I know of a lot of people who've bootstrapped, but they've taken loans from banks, right? Don't be shy of doing that. Don't be shy of taking a loan from a bank, from a family member, from a friend. Don't be shy of asking people to pitch into your idea if you truly believe in it and have the will to make it work. So I think that's the bottom line. I think financial independence is not the bottom line. Financial intelligence is the bottom line here.
Very well put. So also, one more good insight I got from you, as you said, we can ask, we don't have to shy away from asking people for loans if you truly believe in it. So that is I think the first test of your idea. If you can convince your friends and family to invest in you, only then tomorrow you can convince the customers to
Absolutely.
pay you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that is a great insight. And apart from that, I wanted to ask you, as of now, are there any other stakeholders in Sarposh or Khanposh, or is it still?
Luckily, we've still managed to hold on to equity till this point. Whatever we put in ourselves. And yes, there, a lot of the investment we've been able to raise from the company itself in terms of, the revenues that we've done from the company has gone back into building more. And I think that is how it should work, because we've been bootstrapped, because we're a company that's that broke even quite fast, that is profitable, all of that. I think we are now ready for a much larger leap. And I think we've now come to a point where we would be willing to dilute a very small part of our equity. But we've held on to it so far, and we intend to hold on to it for as long as we can.
Do you plan to have franchisees?
We do plan to expand. The franchising model is not something that we would want to explore.
Then what is the other thing? I don't know.
We would have centers which are under direct control. We are not looking at franchising at all. We would definitely want to, because we've realized that quality control, especially with the cuisine so complicated, is going to get very difficult if we start franchising. And that's not on the cards for sure at the moment. But we are looking at larger investments coming in, and there are plans that will revolutionize how this entire cuisine is prepared and distributed across the world. So I think we're looking in terms of that now, and not in terms of smaller investments in terms of franchising and all of that. But yes, you're going to very soon see Sarposh in multiple cities and countries across the world.
Definitely. So I also, this raises another question in my head, like what is easy to scale? What is easier to scale? The franchising model, or the way you are saying it, that it will be under the direct control of the parent company? So does it not affect the scaling?
I think it really depends on what your parameters of scale are. It also really depends in terms of what your model is. I mean, a pizza place or a burger place can standardize very quickly and can scale through a franchising model. Standardizing something as complicated as Vazwan, which gets affected by what the lamb has been eating for the last 2 days and the kind of water the lamb has been drinking, and that's the kind of detail that we go into to understand what we are putting on the plate. So scaling something like that in that format is much harder. And I think our USP is the fact that we understand this cuisine at a depth and detail that probably most other people would have not gone into. And that's something that we would want to retain, and that's something that we would want to build on. So for us, scale would not mean the number of outlets we are able to throw open in a fiscal year, but scale would have very different connotations for us, and we are in talks with multiple parties in terms of how to do that. Whenever that happens, we'll definitely be sharing more information.
That is great. Also, all of your, I can say all of the life that I know about now since apprenticeship. So I can see a lot of culture in it. So first there is the Kashmiri culture, which ties with the Vazwan. Then there is the culture of Lucknow, which brings the Awadhi food. And the third thing is you have been staying in Bangalore. So I have to ask about that as well.
Yeah.
So as I told you earlier, I wanted to know about Bangalore because I haven't been there, and I do plan to spend a couple of years of my life I want to spend in Bangalore, knowing about the culture that it has, the startup culture and everything. So I wanted to know about that. How has it been to stay at Bangalore, at a place where apparently everyone is talking about startups and businesses. So
honestly,
that is true. First of all,
I think it's a little bit of a misconception, but it's also true in a certain sense. Okay. Almost all of your all of your preconceived notions basically have some basis to it. So yes, there is certain basis to the fact that almost everybody's talking about hustle culture and startup culture and number crunching and tech and big startup and entrepreneurial jargon is a part of conversations in Bangalore. But it's also a city that's comparatively slower to Mumbai. There's a certain ease to how everything happens in Bangalore. I mean, it's a very interesting place to be in. It's the best of both worlds. And you can choose to be which world you want to be a part of. Unlike in a city like Mumbai, where if you don't hustle, you will get run over. Bangalore's not that city.
Okay.
Bangalore's not that place. It's in between. It's not extremely laid back, but you're not going to get run over if you don't start running the race. You can walk, you can trot as well.
Space for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Even if you don't want that madness in your life, there is space for you. There's a lot of space for creativity. There's a lot of space for doing interesting things. So I think that is something that I really enjoy about Bangalore. So, you can choose which life you want. You can really choose which life you want in Bangalore.
I was recently going to LinkedIn and I saw a post and I was like, okay, this is the most Bangalore thing ever. So it was written that the Auto Rickshaw Union of Bangalore has planned to launch an app to compete with Uber and Ola.
I won't be surprised. If that happens. I think, as is with every place, this entire process of getting a rickshaw or a taxi is the worst everywhere. But it's exceptionally bad in Bangalore during rains. So that's that.
Famous for traffic, right?
Yes, it is. Notorious for traffic, it is. Traffic in Bangalore is really bad. And I think the roads were not built to kind of deal with the number of people that are in the city. So it is bad, it's horrible, and you spend quite a lot of time on the roads in Bangalore. But it's also a very nice and interesting life. And despite the traffic, people get to places and people like going out. People like to eat. It has a very vibrant food culture, not as vibrant as Delhi for sure. You can't beat Delhi food culture. But Bangalore has, holds its own. And in the premium food segment especially, Bangalore has some great food options. Possibly better than most other places. Not as great as Bombay in the premium segment, but very close, right up there. Street food culture, I don't think they can beat Delhi, but that's what I said. It's the best of both worlds. It's somewhere in between. You'll get a fabulous South Indian meal at almost every place. The filter coffee is to die for. The interesting thing about Bangalore is it's one of those cities where there's so many cultures, a culmination of so many different cultures, that you'll find almost everything. You'll find Japanese, you'll find Korean, you'll find Kashmiri, of course. You're going to find Awadhi, you'll find Hyderabadi, you'll find local Bangalorean. So, really fantastic range of food options at multiple price points. So that is a very interesting thing.
No one ever spoke to me about food in Bangalore.
Oh no, Bangalore food is great.
There are only two things that people speak about when it comes to Bangalore. First is the weather of Bangalore, and second
is the traffic.
There are three things actually: traffic, weather, and startup culture.
Yeah.
These are the only three things.
No, I think because of the fact that I'm so into the food space, I think Bangalore is a fantastically vibrant food culture, and it's one of those places where you'll find multiple things at multiple price points and something or the other for everybody. There's a huge tick in the trend of Turkish, Middle Eastern, Syrian food, Yemeni food that's getting very popular in Bangalore. A lot of Persian food, from that region. You've food from basically every region in Bangalore, and that's very interesting. Wow. You have that in Delhi too, but I think in Bangalore you find that in the more premium food segments. Bombay is slightly better, but even Bangalore is not bad at all.
So in the end, I had just one more question. Say something to the 18-year-old Azmat. If you have to say something to her, what is going to be? If you have to give a message to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
That's a bit difficult. Nobody's ever asked me to do that. But 18-year-old Azmat, let me think about what I was doing at 18. I think I was just out of I just finished my 12th boards. I was heading to Jalandhar, and I had no idea what what turns life would take me through. So I think I would just tell 18-year-old Azmat to be just as spontaneous and chill about whatever's. So I've always been this person, I've never taken stress about what's going to happen tomorrow. Dekha jayega. And even at that point of time when everybody was stressing on entrance exams and kiss college mein jana and all of that, I was so chilled out and I was like, it's going to work out on its own. So I think I would just tell her to be as chill as she was then, because I'm not that chill anymore. I get stressed and I get stressed really fast. And I think I would just tell her to kind of retain that sense of zen that I used to have back then, because it'll help later in life. I think I miss that. I miss that, and I think I would want me to have that from there.
Wow, that is great. So this was actually a trick question. This was just for 18-year-old Azmat. This was for every 18-year-old woman who is going to watch this. So this was a message.
I'm not sure if this is the message I want to give to every 18-year-old, because maybe not every 18-year-old is going to be as zen as I was back then. But to all other 18-year-olds, I would say, I would definitely pass on this message. Don't stress. Things are going to work out, and whatever you think is not going to happen and you're worried about, it's all going to work out in the end. But, don't take your dreams lightly, is what I would say. There's some value to all of those things that you've dreamt about, you wanted. I think I would want to go back maybe a couple more years and not talk to the 18-year-old Azmat, but maybe talk to the 13-year-old Azmat who wanted to have a food truck and a caravan and travel the world in the caravan and sell hot dogs in the food truck. And I wanted to tell her that it's going to happen in one form or the other. I used to be crazy about watching TLC and Food Traveler and all of that. And, I've spent hours of my life watching Rocky and Mahur go all around, on their show Highway on My Plate, and eating across the world and eating across India. And I really wanted to do that. And just recently, when we won the Economic Times Best Casual Dining South Jury's Choice, Mayur was there and I met him, and it was such a fangirl moment for him. And I was like, you've no idea, life is coming full circle for me over here. And he's like, listen, I'm going to come over to Sarposh and, I'm just coming over next week. And I was like, I would never have imagined this.
That's
so I think, I think those silly dreams that we have, they're going to come true in one form or the other. Just hold on to it. Yeah, just hold on to it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Azmat.
Thank you so much.
Great pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I had a great time talking to you too, and I hope I've been able to add some value to the time that we've spent.
You don't know how much value you have provided us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Emphasize on how much I enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much.